Hello, I'm Andrew G. Marshall from Marshall Method Therapy, and I'm here with Evelyn, who's one of my team, to talk about how to deal with difficult situations. So what sort of difficult situations are we talking about?
Well, often these situations have become habitual. Things like shouting, late night arguments when one partner wants to go to sleep, alcohol use can escalate the issues, walking on eggshells when nothing actually gets expressed because it doesn't feel safe. So there's a complete avoidance of actually talking about whatever problem is bothering the partners. And eye rolling, of course, that's a very popular one that comes up.
And it's absolutely horrible when somebody rolls their eyes at you because it feels like you're being dismissed. So let's have a look at what the alternatives to this might be. Any suggestions?
Well, the first most important one is to choose your moment carefully when you actually want to have a conversation, to actually communicate effectively, because that's really key to this, because you want your partner to hear you. So obviously to avoid the late nights and to choose a moment when you've both got time, space, you're not likely to be interrupted. And that brings us on to the second most important thing, which is the language used. Tone of voice as well, and to actually use something that we call I language, which is to actually state clearly, I think, I need, I want, I feel. So you're actually owning the thought, the feeling, the behaviour, and you're avoiding the use of you, because that can be very inflammatory, particularly things like you don't listen ever, you never ever take the children to school, so avoiding always and never also is very helpful.
I can see how I've become defensive if you said things like that. So that's a really useful tip. Any others?
Yes, things like don't interrupt, because again that just ups the temperature. Acknowledge what's being said, because that's really important to actually be heard.
So how do you acknowledge what somebody's said?
Well, it's to actually reflect back what you've just heard. So whatever has just been said, you actually, obviously you're not expected to say word for word, but you're summarising what's actually being said, which your partner then feels heard and gives you some time to actually think about what it is and actually how you want to respond, and to actually take on board what's being said, rather than just immediately going into responding, which is often the case. So doesn't really get thought about, doesn't really get heard or listened to, and nothing gets resolved.
Now, I always say that things are 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Could that be helpful with this idea of difficult situations?
Yes, definitely, because certainly the first thing is not to compare yourselves to other people, because that's not helpful either. And there's also something about not just expecting your partner to do all the changing. It's your responsibility as well. So yes, 50-50 would seem like a good split.
Yes, because often if you actually own your half of the problem, you'll find your partner will do the same, and that can be really constructive. There's more useful information like this and help with your relationship on my website, and that address is www.andrewgmarshall.com.